Mosala for Tagged Online, and today I'll be breaking down my top 5 South African horror movie picks that you can catch on Showmax. Coming in at number 5 is the 2018 film The Tokoloshi. Now, this is one of those movies that you go into thinking it's not going to be that scary because you already know what the monster is, but I promise you the scares in this film are amazing, and it also has a really good plot line. So it follows a young woman who's destitute and goes to Johannesburg looking for employment like many people do, and when she gets there she finds work at a hospital where, amongst other things like her creepy boss, she has to deal with a generally toxic work environment, but also the fact that one of the children in the hospital, a young girl, needs her help and she's seemingly being haunted by this dark entity in the hospital. And I'm not going to give any spoilers on this list, but it's an amazing film with a lot of scares and I think very heart-wrenching scenes as well, and the cast is just really good in this movie, so I would highly recommend it. Coming in at number 4 is the 2018 film Simbaba, or The Lullaby, and this movie follows the story of a young mother who, after giving birth, suffers from postpartum depression, and then she goes home to live with her own mother at their maternal home. But while at the home, things seem kind of dark, and she starts to suspect that what's causing her and her baby suffering is a malevolent spirit rather than just the depression. And the movie has that classic psychological thriller toss-up of whether the protagonist is actually experiencing a mental health problem or experiencing a spiritual attack, or both. And I think the movie executes it brilliantly. Also quite scary, really dark. I would watch this one with a friend or someone else, or maybe even alone if you're a big horror fan, but it's amazing psychological horror here, and I think it's a really good South African film. Coming in at number 3 is the 2020 film Binky. Now, this is based on a South African urban legend, and going into it, you can kind of think it's predictable. However, the story is really good. It follows a young woman, again, I think there's a theme here, who goes to a boarding school after the death of her twin sister. But when she gets there, she finds that things at the boarding school aren't as idyllic as they seem, because there's a dark entity, the Binky, who is tormenting students at the school and wants to do them harm. And then the students have to band together to fight against this monster that seems to be torturing them at the boarding school. I would highly recommend this film. It deals with really deep themes of grief and self-acceptance and belonging, while also just being a really good horror movie. And I think based on that alone, I would recommend this to anyone. So coming in at number 2, my runner-up is the 2020 film The Parable. This movie is another one that deals with very dark social and psychological themes, but I think it's a really good horror movie pick as well. It follows a girl, Esther, who's kidnapped by an overzealous priest who wants to subject her to gay conversion therapy. And while doing this ritual to cure Esther, he accidentally summons a demon, and then he has to trap the demon along with Esther in the basement, and he has to keep her there while he tries to find a solution. But on the other side of the story, we follow this group of teenagers, sort of like misfits in the community, who are banding together to try and save Esther, unbeknownst to them that there's a supernatural force at work. I think this is a brilliant film. The young cast in this one is just so talented, and especially the lead. I think she does such a good job of conveying the emotions and the pain that a person would be going through in a circumstance where they haven't just been spiritually harmed but also emotionally traumatized. And I think it's an amazing movie. I would highly recommend. Watch it with someone, watch it with friends and family, but it's a good movie, and I think it would appeal to people of all ages due to its depth but also its relatability. So my champion and my pick for number 1 is the 2020 film Rage. Rage is one of those movies where you think you're not gonna like it because it's like a teenage film and it's a bit frivolous, but this film is amazing. So it follows a group of teens, matriculants, who are going on matric rage in a small coastal town, and when they get there, things slowly start devolving. So there's a lot of partying and drugs and alcohol involved, but then the teenagers witness on one night a very creepy birthing ritual, and they're also finding these creepy effigies and totems all around the place where they're staying. And the locals don't seem okay either. They're also very odd and very menacing. The movie does a good job of conveying horror and the frightening nature of the scenery while also being really light. So think Midsummer, but for teenagers who are on mature age. I think it's an amazing film, and I think you'll enjoy it no matter how long ago your mature age was. In no particular order, this is a list of my honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is a 2015 movie called Die Ohnwaking. Now, it's on my honorable mentions list because it's not technically a horror movie, but if you like serial killers and thrillers and slashers and you want to see what that would look like in a South African setting, I would highly recommend this movie. It is so good. We get to delve deep into the psyche of a serial killer who has a penchant for art that's made out of human remains, and on the other hand there's a detective who's hunting down the serial killer, and we sort of get to know her and see her journey. The second pick for my honorable mentions is the series Disprius. Now, this has to be my favorite South African series of all time. Yes, it's in Afrikaans. Yes, you'll probably have to switch on the subtitles, but this is a brilliant series. So, Chris Forster and Monique Rockman are the leads. They play a detective duo, and I think they are amazingly talented. You really see the experience coming through in the whole cast, but especially the leads, and they're just a lovable team of detectives going into these scenes where the spookies are haunting places. And I think the special effects in this one are probably some of the best I've seen locally. It's very, very good, and you can probably tell it's my favorite by how much I'm hyping it up. But I think if you're gonna watch anything out of the honorable mentions, it has to be Disprius. It's a very human story, so you get to learn a lot about the characters and the conflicts in the stories, and you see a lot of character development. I think that's why I'm so attached to this series, because of the characters. But in terms of the horror aspect, it is amazing, and you should definitely check it out. My third pick for the honorable mentions is the series The Girl from St. Agnes. Now, this is a very popular Showmax original, and for good reason. I think it's a very, very good mystery. It's very suspenseful, but it's also emotionally touching and haunting and a little bit tragic. If you want to watch something that is scary and is on the darker side of things, but isn't filled with any type of gruesome stuff and gore, I would highly recommend The Girl from St. Agnes. This is set in a high school, but it's not another high school drama. It is an excellent series to watch. Also highly bingeable because of the suspense, and it's gonna have you at the edge of your seat the entire time. And that's it for my top South African horror picks that you can enjoy as we head into spooky season. So happy watching, or should I say scary watching.